talked about hardening or securing a Unix environment. But what are we protecting against? What are some common Unix attacks? Well, the biggest one probably is the lack of applying patches, whether it's for the operating system or components being used by web servers and so on. The 2017 Equifax hack, as a point of interest, was actually due to missing Apache component patches for server-side Java rendering. Denial of service attacks are called DOS attacks, and essentially what they end up doing is preventing legitimate resource access, such as to a server, and that could be by crashing the server with some known flaw. So, a denial of service attack then can be executed by a single host on a single network, whereas a distributed denial of service attack, or DDoS, prevents legitimate resource access but is executed by multiple hosts, which could be on one network or multiple networks. When we talk about having collections of networks of infected computers under malicious user control, we're talking about what's called a botnet. And malicious users can instruct them at any time to flood a victim network or even just a single victim server with useless traffic, and that would be an example of a DDoS attack. But there are many other threats that we have to be aware of, like port scanning. Now, is that really an attack? Well, it's part of malicious user reconnaissance to see what's running on a host, which then could be taken further to determine if what's running is vulnerable and is missing patches. Then there's IP spoofing, which essentially is the forging of IP addresses in the IP header of a packet, such as forging the source IP address. There are password attacks, where we can have an automated brute force attack mechanism that keeps trying password variations until one of them works. There are web application attacks specifically for web apps, like SQL injection attacks or directory traversal attacks to get to parts of the file system through the HTTP web server that normally shouldn't be allowed, or cross-site scripting attacks or cross-site request forgeries. All of these are specific to essentially taking advantage of how web applications work to reveal sensitive data or to execute transactions that really aren't authorized. Now, what can we do to mitigate against all of these scary Unix threats? Well, one is to always make sure every Unix host has a host-based firewall. And if you're running web applications, you should also have a web application firewall installed, which is designed to look specifically for things like SQL injection attacks and cross-site scripting attacks. You should always have an anti-malware solution kept up to date on all Unix hosts. We should consider intrusion detection systems, IDSs, as well as intrusion prevention systems, IPSs, where the difference is that IPSs can not only detect an alert on suspicious activity, but take steps to stop it in its tracks. But it has to be configured for a specific environment to do that. We should apply patches and remove unnecessary components. We should change default settings in Unix. We should use multi-factor authentication or MFA, and if not that, at least strong passwords.